Now, remaining with the story, I'm now joined to make sense of this meeting is political analyst, Professor Stephen Friedman. Professor, very good morning. Friends, foes, and possibly friends again. What do we read into this Tea Party?
Good morning, Hugo. Look, the relationship is a bit more complicated than those clips you've just shown indicate. I mean, obviously the clips are genuine, and Mr. Malema did say those things, but he said a whole lot of other things too. I think the issue here is that there is bad blood between them, and that, of course, relates to the fact that it was Jacob Zuma who, in effect, made sure that Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu were expelled from the ANC. And I don't think Julius Malema has ever quite forgiven him for that. On the other hand, they do have a common cause. And just as Julius Malema has said some of those things which were on the clips, he's also said some other things. I mean, for much of 2019, what Mr. Zuma was saying and his faction was saying within the ANC were the same as what the EFF was saying. I mean, both of them were very worried about Pravin Gordhan. Both of them were suspicious of the president's motives. Both of them claimed they were being hounded politically because, of course, the EFF was worried about the VBS issue and some related issues. And in fact, towards the end of 2019, what Malema and the EFF were saying and what the Zuma group within the ANC was saying were entirely identical. So they have common ground as well as bad blood. And I think what this public meeting suggests, and as your reporter correctly said, they've clearly been in touch before, and they're trying to send a public message. And I think the public message that they're trying to send is that the bad blood is less important than the fact that they believe that they have some common interests and some common perspectives, which I think is the message they're trying to convey by meeting in public.
Professor, there's a lot that's being put forward about the reason they're meeting and certainly why it's being publicized. And one of those suggestions is that there's a possible alliance coming out of this. I mean, we had a poll run earlier this morning, and one of the questions was, is it likely that they will come out of this hand in hand, arm in arm, and announce some form of an alliance? What are your thoughts around this?
I think there may well be an alliance in the sense that they will be on the same page and they will sing from the same hymn sheet, as we say. I can't see that there's going to be any sort of more formal alliance. I mean, in effect, what would the alliance be with? I mean, the EFF is a political party. Mr. Zuma doesn't head a political party anymore. I mean, we talk about his faction within the ANC, but the faction doesn't have an address and it doesn't have an office. So I doubt very much whether they're going to say, look, the EFF will now be cooperating with the Zuma faction. I suspect that what they will say, and that is an alliance of a sort, that they've discovered that they have common perspectives on a variety of issues, and that they may publicly be expressing those. And you know, I think if we want to get down to the basics of what is the purpose of the meeting, I think in a nutshell, the purpose of the meeting is to scare the president, is to say, well, look, you know, we've got these two prominent figures, one of whom the leader of the third biggest party in the country, and they're now getting together and you need to be very worried about that. And in order to send that message, you don't have to form a formal alliance. You can simply say, well, look, you know, we've discovered, as I say, that we have common views on a lot of issues, and we're going to be expressing those in public. Of course, the one issue which hasn't been mentioned enough is that there doesn't seem to be a unanimous view within the EFF on this issue, because Mbusani Ndlozi said not long ago that he thought that Mr. Zuma should go to jail, or certainly that he should be prosecuted. So it does seem that there's a difference of opinion. But I think if you look at the history of the EFF, you see that if there's a difference of opinion between the commander-in-chief and somebody else, then the commander-in-chief gets to decide what happens. So I guess if Ndlozi does have reservations, he will have to put them aside because that's not the direction in which things are going.
Well, Professor, I do have a question around that. Now, the Commission has threatened unspecified action at Zuma because of his continued defiance. What are their options?
Well, the options are that they will repeat, I mentioned earlier on that Malema has been saying various things which, indicate that he's forgiven Zuma to a certain extent. I mean, at one stage, he did say that he thought that Mr. Zuma was being treated unfairly, and that if necessary, the EFF would come to his aid. And that may well be what they announced this afternoon, that they formalize that and say, look, we think he's being treated badly. We're going to go out in public, whether that means by speaking in public or whether it means by organizing events or whatever the case may be. But I wouldn't be surprised if the message after the meeting is the EFF has agreed that Mr. Zuma is being treated badly and that it will now publicly support him.
Professor Friedman, thank you so much for speaking to us this morning.